Hey there, John Morris here, and in this video we're going to talk a little bit about what PHP is and how it works. The idea behind this video is to just give you kind of a general overview of what PHP is, what it can do for you, and a little bit of the core of how it works so you understand the core functionality of PHP and just exactly how it works. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So first off, PHP, what is it? Well, it's an HTML embeddable server-side scripting language that allows you to create dynamic web pages and scripts. All right, so what does that mean? Well, first off, it means that you can embed PHP in HTML, and you can actually output HTML with PHP. And so unlike a lot of other languages like C and some of the other ones, using PHP in conjunction with HTML is actually very easy. And in this demo, I'm going to show you a little bit of how that works. Also, it's a server-side scripting language. So what that means is that the code or PHP itself is executed on the server side as opposed to the client side. So that means it's all of its processing happens before any code ever gets sent to the browser. So when you write PHP scripts, one thing that you really don't have to worry about too much is someone seeing your PHP code, because it'll be processed before they ever get a chance to actually see it, because it gets processed on your server. All they're going to see is the output of your PHP code, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And then the final thing is it allows you to create dynamic web pages and scripts. So it allows you to create web pages that are not static, that can be created on the fly. You can even create things beyond just web pages like PDFs, and you can create, it's more than just outputting HTML. You can output JavaScript and certain forms of Flash and different things like that. So PHP can really do a lot. The core of what it allows you to do is to add a dynamic, interactive aspect to your sites. A good example of this is Facebook. If you go to Facebook, you'll see that much of what you do on Facebook involves submitting some sort of form. Now, they really dress up their forms to make them not really look like forms, but when you sign up, you fill out a form. When you fill out your profile, you submit a form. When you update your status, you submit a form. When you join a group, you submit a form. When you say anything on that group or in its discussion forums, you submit a form. Pretty much everything that you do is submitting forms over and over and over and over again. And Facebook is written using PHP. And it's PHP that actually processes all that form data, stores in a database, and then also pulls it back out of that database and displays it on the site. So, and of course there's other technologies that make that happen, but it allows you to create those kind of dynamic, interactive web pages, and you can do it all with PHP. So probably its strongest or most commonly known attributes are one, that it is a preprocessor that outputs to HTML. So everything is done on the server side before it ever gets to the browser. It allows you to very easily process data and store it in a database, which is 90%, 95% of the people who use PHP, that's why they use it. They're using it in conjunction with a database. And then it also allows you to retrieve data from that database and display it on a web page. So it's a very, very powerful coding language. And so we're going to talk a little bit about some of these attributes and how it works. So you'll notice that I have this little paragraph, or a couple paragraphs that I've written here. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at behind the scenes to show you some of the functions of PHP. So if we open up that file in our text editor here, you'll notice that this is actually looks, if you've ever messed with HTML, this looks a lot like a regular HTML page. In fact, when you create a page and call it, give it the extension .php, you don't really have to do anything necessarily different. You could write this, call this demo.php, and write it completely in HTML and have no PHP in it at all, and it would still process. What giving it this .php extension does is it tells the web server Apache that this particular file will probably contain PHP code and that it should send it to the PHP processing engine first before sending it to the browser, so that that engine can look for any of these PHP tags, process them, and then output them. So we said that HTML, or that PHP is an HTML embeddable scripting language, and that it usually outputs to HTML. So you'll notice that we have these tags in here, and these PHP tags, opening and closing tags here, are actually, if you think about it, they're actually HTML tags. Just like you have your HTML tag here, and you have your head tag here, you have your title tag here, you have your PHP tag here. And all it does is it tells Apache and it tells PHP that anything that's inside of these tags right here, these opening and closing tags, is PHP and so should be executed as such. Okay, so again, it's very, very easy to embed into HTML. You simply have to give it an extension of .php and then create these tags and wrap your code inside of it. So it allows you to really, really, really easily embed PHP in an HTML page, which is very handy and why it's so, one of the reasons why it's so widely used. The other thing we said is it typically outputs to HTML. So you notice here I have this echo statement, which is the main way that you're going to output your information and output to HTML. And you notice that inside here I actually have HTML tags, these two paragraph, opening and closing paragraph tags, and I have my text inside there. So if we come back over to our page, you'll notice that this line right here is what that generates. And if we view the source of this page, you're going to see that all that shows up is what's inside of our PHP tags here. So we don't actually see the PHP, echo, etc. We just see what we tell it to output when we view the source. And this is going to be true throughout all of PHP. And the powerful part about this is you can write your scripts and you don't have to worry about someone seeing what your tags are. No one's ever going to be able to see what PHP code you wrote just by viewing a particular page, because it always will be processed before it gets sent to the browser. So again, this is the browser and all the code's already been processed before it ever gets sent here. Okay, so that's something that is very, very handy. And then you'll notice as we move along here, we can pop in and out of PHP. We can write stuff in regular HTML. We can write it in PHP, and it's going to look on our site just exactly the same. You can't tell the difference between this line being written in straight HTML and this one using PHP to write it. And if we view the source again, even when you view the source, it looks like it's all just written in HTML. You can't tell the difference. Okay, so that's a little bit about pre-processing and being able to embed it in HTML easily, etc. So now let's talk a little about one of the other strong suits of PHP, which is the ability to use it with forms. So you'll notice here that I've created this simple form, and in this form itself, there's nothing special about the form. There's no special tags, nothing like that. It's simply a form using the post method, and it's sending all of the data that gets submitted in that form to this demo.php page, which is itself. So it's sending all of the data to itself. Okay, we have two inputs. One is a text input called fname. We have one called which is the submit button with the value of send it. So if we go back over here, we'll see that we have our text box, we have our submit button. If we click if we fill this out, and we click submit, you'll see that all of the data that we entered got sent to this demo.php page and now shows up here. If we go back, you notice that I created a simple conditional statement using if, and all of this data that was in here, which was only one text input called fname, got sent to, got stored in what's called the post variable, it's a super global, and we can access it using this little code right here. And we assigned it to this variable, and then down here we simply echoed that variable out. Okay, and what that does is it gives you a nice little kind of microcosm of what you can really, when you get into PHP, and what you're going to really get far with, and that's using forms to accept user submitted data. And again, like we talked about Facebook, and if you start looking across the web, you'll see that most of the big name sites that you find out there that you do stuff with are going to involve forms. And so the form allows you to accept user submitted data, process it in some way using PHP, and then display it on your website. And if you've used Facebook, I mean, something like this is, this is something you do all the time. This could very easily just be a status box that says you hit send and it shows up. That's something that we do all the time. So that's what PHP allows you to do. That's where it's going to get very, very powerful, and that's kind of the point of using it. So throughout the rest of this course, we're going to talk a lot about all of this stuff. We're going to get in depth in using PHP, using it with forms, using it with a database, and we're going to cover everything that you really need to get up and going as a PHP programmer. So that's a little bit about PHP Works. Hopefully that gives you a little bit broader overview of what it is, how you can use it, and what you're going to be able to do going forward. So thanks for watching the video, and I'll talk to you again soon.